disclaimer, I am in my demo account. So we will start here with the projects tab, and we will go through each one of these options here on the new navigation. So the first thing I'm going to do is start with a new project so you can see kind of all of the steps to building that out per your contract. And then we'll come back, take a look at everything that's shown on this screen. We'll talk about milestones, tasks, templates, and the archive as well. So first things first, let's start with a new project. So we'll just hit new, We'll just hit new project in the top right corner here. And then we'll just start to fill in our prompts, which I don't need help from my password, but that's okay. So our project today is going to be, let's do Wednesday test. Excuse me, one password. Okay. And then if you have a numbering system for your projects already, you're welcome to include that in here. It is totally optional, but typically what I've seen is kind of the year that the project started in. Maybe this is the 10th project that you have for the year. So that's kind of how I see a lot of people number their projects, but you're welcome to do whatever you have. And then this color will be automatically assigned. So back here with this Gantt chart, that's going to show or kind of be the theme color. So what I see some people do here is maybe they will assign teal to residential, purple to commercial, or maybe they'll do it by project manager. So if I'm the project manager for these 5 projects, I do blue. AJ is another project manager and he prefers red. So there's a lot of different things you can do with it, or if you just want it to assign it for you, it'll do that too. So we do have templates here that you are able to select, but I'm actually not going to talk about that just yet. We'll talk about it a little bit later, but just so you know, that option is available here as well. And then you have a fee type, so billable, non-billable. 90% of everything I see is billable, but some non-billable instances might be like a pro bono project, or maybe the principal is doing an addition on their house. So it's not being billed, but you kind of want to track what people are doing. So we will have billable here. And then we'll start out with service fees and consultant fees. So when you start a project, you don't technically have to know this information, but if you already have the contract available, you can enter it here. So let's just start out with $10,000 for our service fees, and then let's give our consultants $1,000 to start out with. And just so everyone knows, anytime you see this little I within Monograph, it's what we call a tooltip. So it will kind of explain what's going on. So if I hover over service fees, this shows the sum of all service fees for fixed fee phases. This does not include hourly services. So that's kind of important to point out. We'll take a look at that on the next screen as well. But Monograph views fixed fee and hourly a little bit differently because fixed fee is guaranteed money. Hourly is just kind of maybe a do not exceed, for example, but it's not guaranteed money. So it's just viewed a little bit differently, but financially they will track very similar. So let's move on and click create. And now we are in the budget portion of our project. So we have firm services and consultant fees here. So these are the 2 options that we'll have to work with. So as we can see, our total project fees are $11,000. So that is inclusive of our service fees and the consultant fees. But then when we get over to service fees, it's broken out into the $10,000. As I mentioned in the previous screen, if you do not know that information right away and you're putting a project in, that's okay. Or for example, if you get a change order, you can always come in and edit here. So this purple little pencil with a box, you can edit that there, and then you can update any of those service fee numbers, and then you can update the phase budgets too if you already have those set. So first things first, let's start adding our phases in from our contract. So I'm just going to do about 3 of them, but I'm sure you probably have many more in your actual contracts. So let's start with, let's do pre-design. I will select another one. Let's go to SD, and then I'll also throw in CA just because I want that one to be the hourly. So what I'm doing here is just selecting a phase from my settings that I have set up from the Foundations webinar that you did previously. But if you have a specific phase or you didn't include it in the settings, maybe it's a change order, something specific to this project, you can add a new phase here and just follow the prompts, and that can be added either into your settings or it can just be project specific. So if it doesn't live in this phase list, you can add that there. Okay, so let's take a look at what populated after I entered all of our phases. So we have our phase name here. We'll talk about linking a phase once we get down to SD. And then we come to our date range. So this automatically defaults to 1 month out of the date that you created the project, but you're welcome to change this out if pre-design Maybe this takes 2 months. So I'll select 4 to 31, for example, and that updates that way. But let's say pre-design is already done and finished. We're already in schematic design. So for a mid-flight project that I'm sure most of you have, what you can do is if pre-design is already completed, you can just give it the best estimated date range that you have, and you can just backdate it from, maybe you did it for the month of August. So you can just backdate here. You can choose that date range. It doesn't just have to go forward. So with this fixed fee type, I will talk about the hourly toggle once we get down to CA, but we can either do a percentage or a budget dollar amount. So if you have maybe 10% set out just for pre-design, that will take the service fees and give you a dollar budget. Or if you say we have $5,000 out of our contract, it will give you the percentage here. So these work in tandem. And then the next step is going to be adding your team members. So adding your team members will simplify timesheet entry and track team capacity easily. So that will also work into staffing, which will be another webinar that you will all join us for. So let's add our team member in here. I'm going to choose Anna. I can select my role. So Anna can be our principal for the day. And then this automatically fills in with a standard billable rate. But if you have a different contracted rate for this project, no problem. You can drop that down. You can either add a billable rate, or you can select from the list that you already set up in your settings under roles and rates. So next I'm going to add, let's do Charles. So Charles is going to be our project designer, and they'll be at 100. That works great. So now that I have both of them working in here, I will just click save. And then if I do ever need to come back to add a team member, I'll show you how to edit so you can come back into this screen. Okay, so one thing you'll notice here is that we have Anna and Charles. We have the rates that we just assigned there, but now we have hours, percentage, and budget. And all of this was automatically filled in for us, which is great. So really what this does is it takes the budget that you provided for this particular phase, so $5,000. It took their billable rate into consideration, gave them both 50% distribution of the work, and then it showed how many hours they could work based on their billable rate here. So this is an automatic entry to help you get set up for staffing, which is going to be a future webinar that we do together. But if you already have a good idea of how much you think Anna is working, or Charles, for example, if you wanted to switch Charles to 60, and Anna to 40 instead, you're welcome to manually update these. It will just kind of divide by how many people you choose to include on a phase and give you an automatic output, but of course you can change them as you would like. And then you can come in here and assign anyone else that you would like by coming into this edit button. So I'm going to hide this assigned team here. And now we can talk about schematic design. So this is going to be fixed fee, very similar to what we just saw. So I'm going to actually link my phase now, which means that we are going to link our date ranges together. So I'm going to choose pre-design, and then I'm going to select our date range of, let's do the month of February and March for schematic design. So what this does for linking phases, it can kind of streamline the updates that you have to make for any of the phases that are linked together. So for example, if pre-design gets pushed out another month because the client went on vacation, you can just update the pre-design phase, and then that will update every single phase that is linked together, depending on kind of the waterfall version of this, but it will update everything together based on the date range that you chose. So how many days have been edited into that timeline. So that is a long-winded way to say you can link a phase together, and then you can select your date range here, and we have fixed fee. So let's work on percentage and budget. We already have 50%, so I'll just do 25 here, gives us our budget. And then we can either add new team members. So maybe you have a different team working on pre-design, kind of working with the owners. Maybe that's just the principal. And then once you get into SD is where some other people start to join the team. So you can either add a team member here, or you can copy your entire team from a different phase. So that's what I'm going to do, a little shortcut. And that has those billable rates in there. If you do need to change them, you sure can. You can have multiple billable rates as well. So if you need to add Anna in twice to have one principal rate and one designer rate, you can do that here too. So once I click save, we will see that same distribution here that automatically happens, but of course you're welcome to update as you see fit. And finally, construction administration. So I'm going to link this phase to SD. Then I'm going to choose our date range. This can just be the month of April. And then watch when I flip this to hourly, the percentage and budget change. So instead it goes to max cap or, do not exceed if that is an easier terminology for you. So with the max cap, this is, again, not guaranteed money, but if we put in, let's say $2,000, actually we'll do 2,500 since that's technically what's remaining here. If we take a look at the top, we have a current unallocated and a current allocated percentage. So that's just showing that we have a dollar amount and a percentage that have been allocated or that we have left to kind of distribute through the contract. So I'm putting this 2,500 here, but you'll notice that this won't change because we have this on an hourly fee, so it's not technically considered in the service fees. So we will keep that there. I'm going to add the same team from SD, and I'm going to click Save. So once I click Save here, as you notice, these did not change the same way that hourly fees did, and that's only because we have this, or I'm sorry, as the fixed fees did, because we have this set up as hourly. So now that we have our team members in, we have the allocations ready to go, we can move on to our consultant fees. So I'm just going to switch over to the consultant fee tab here. And now we can talk about phase and project consultants. So one thing I highly recommend you all do is coming in maybe on your first project, for example, and taking a look at this purple banner. So really, I think the most important thing about these consultant fees are, yes, tracking them and making sure you pay the bills on time and all of that, but really it's going to impact your invoicing. So phase consultants are going to have flexibility where project consultants are going to have their own block on the invoice. I'm not going to get into the weeds here because we are just focusing on projects, but I do recommend coming in here to learn more just so you can see kind of the visual differences of what that might look like on an invoice, so then you can make the decision whether you would like to set them up as phase or project. So I will do one of each here. Let's do civil for a phase consultant. We will select our company, and just as a note, we will talk about the consultant bill manager a little bit later once we get to our money session together, but the company is going to be key to making sure that you are able to upload those bills to Monograph. So if you don't know exactly who is your civil engineer on this project because you just got the contract, no problem. You can just come back and fill it in once you have that info. So I'm going to choose ABC Engineering. If you have a markup, you can include it there. But then we need to add a phase because we're under phase consultants. So let's add them in to schematic. And then we have $1,000, so I'm just going to give them that whole budget. Actually, I need to do one in projects. So let's do 500 here. And then if you do need to add them into multiple phases, you can do that here and set their budget per phase. So we'll click Save. And now we have the civil engineer and who we are working with. And then, of course, this does have a little hyperlink if you want that to take you to their directory profile. So project consultants is going to be it's going to be the same, but a little bit easier because you don't have to choose the phase. So let's do geotech and consultant fee. Let's do 500 for them as well. If you have a markup, you can include that, and then there will be a small calculation under here that you can take a look at, which will populate up here as well. And so let's select our company. We'll do Ruby. Well, that's fine. We'll just do Ruby MEP for our example. So I have the $1,000 distributed through civil and geotech. So I'm going to click Save. And then as you can see, we have the same unallocated and allocated percentages up here that we did on consultant fees. So that is going to be all of our budget details for the project, and you can come in and edit these at any time. So if you do need to come in, add another consultant, add some more fee, add some change orders, some ad services, you can do that all within the budget page. So next we are going to go to details. So on details here, this is going to be basic information, project size, shareable link, just kind of the back end information of this project that you want to keep track of. So let's go into edit here. This was the kind of first prompt that you were seeing when we started the project. It has the name, number, color, billable, non-billable. This is where you can come in and edit any of that information if you would like. So next up, we do have categories, which I like to spend maybe just a minute on. So within the demo account, this is showing different typologies, and you can tag one, you can tag multiple. You can really be creative with this category section. And I'm sure this was probably talked about a little bit in the Foundations webinar as well. But with these categories, you can also create maybe location-based categories. I'm currently in Colorado, so maybe I want to track projects in Fort Collins and in Boulder and see, which ones are more profitable, for example. But one of the best ones that I've seen in here with the categories is people actually tagging the project manager to it. So if I'm the project manager, I'll create a new category within the settings, and then I can tag myself to this project. So then when I am filtering through either staffing or the projects list, I can just see exactly what's assigned to me. I don't have to worry about anyone else's stuff. It just kind of helps out with the filtering process. So of course, you'll add your client here as well. And then if you are connected to QBO, or planning to connect, you will have another box here that will ask you for the QuickBooks Online destination. So you just match the client name to the client name. And if you have multiple projects, that will drop down as well, and you can pick which one. Of course, you can add your address in here and then any internal notes. Okay, and then we have project size. So if you want to track gross square footage or construction cost, you can do so here. And then we also have a shareable link. I believe I will talk about this once we get to the overview page of the project, but just as kind of a precursor, this is something that you are able to share with your client if you choose. And then lastly, we have our expense markup. So right now, this is automatically loaded in as materials, meals and entertainment, and travel. If you have updated these in your settings, you will see that update as well. If you have a particular markup for this contract, whether it's one expense or all, you can come in here and edit and make the exception for just this project if you would like. There's also a setting under app defaults, I believe, that you can set this universally. So if you have a universal markup of 20% on all expenses, great, you can set that up and don't have to touch anything. But for a markup, I'll just put 10%, and I do want to apply that to everything in the project. Click save. And there we go. Okay, so that is details. So let's talk about milestones and tasks. So we do have some preloaded in here because it's the demo account. So what you can take a look at here is going to be the phases that we included. So then you can add a new milestone here. So milestones can be a variety of things. This is where you can either be creative or be flexible, or if you already kind of have some things in place, you're welcome to continue on. So with this new milestone, thank you, with the help of my password, I'm just going to do 25%. This was pre-design. So if you have billing milestones, you can include that here. Or if you have maybe a client meeting or a site visit, any of those things could be milestones. And we'll talk about how tasks work into that as well. So here is the pre-design phase that we're including. If you do create a milestone, you can choose which phase you would like it to be connected to. And then our due date, I'm just going to say it's due on Friday. And then you can have a description if you would like. So I'm just going to put test so you can all see what that looks like. And we'll click create. So then we have 25% pre-D here, but that is just the milestone. So let's talk about tasks. If I click into 25% PD, it's just empty here. So let's create a task. I'm coming in the right-hand top corner for a new task. And it's going to be the same prompts. So I'm going to say, we'll do red lines. I'm pretty sure we're not doing that in pre-design, but we'll do red lines here. We will say round 1 of red lines. So of course you can make this whatever you would like, but we'll select it to our phase of pre-design, and then we will select it to our milestone. So as you can see, milestone is in parentheses optional. You do not have to connect tasks to milestones. So if you have the client meeting and you need someone to get coffee, refill the coffee maker, grab paper towels, all of those things, you can make those tasks as well. They don't have to be exactly specific to a milestone or a phase in particular. They do have to be connected with a project, but I think you won't get the gist. So I'm going to choose this to 25% PD. Due date is also going to be Friday with the rest of that milestone. Actually, you know what? I'll make it Thursday. We'll make it interesting. So then you can assign anyone here, but as you can see, only Anna and Charles populate. And that's because those are the only 2 that I added to the project. So if you would like to assign someone a task to a project, you do have to include them with a billable rate there. So we'll choose Anna. And then of course you can have your description, and we'll click create. So now we have a task that is connected to 25% pre-design, and these are all things that can be saved into a template as well. I'm going to talk about templates a little bit later, but you can set up all of these billing milestones, all of these client milestones, tasks, whatever. You can set that up in a template and can save you quite a bit of time. So I do recommend that. But that's kind of the workflow of creating new milestones, whether it's in SD, CA, any of those things. You can create a milestone here. You can add a task here. And then you can also take a look at anything that's active or completed. And then you can see if it's been assigned or unassigned. Okay, so now for some of the funner things that we can take a look at on our project. So here with performance, this is just going to be one of the reports that you can pull on a project level. You can also see these on a firm level across all of your projects. So what this is comparing here with kind of the half data that I put in is our planned hours, which is coming from those two boxes that automatically got filled in. So like I gave Anna 40% and I gave Charles 60%. Those hours that get shot out from there get considered into those planned hours. This also includes the staffed hours. So once you start using the staffing module, you can compare that as well. You can compare actual logged hours. You can compare invoices. You can compare planned completion date. You can compare project budget. This is really just the hub for tracking every element of your project to, make a different decision, extending timelines, tracking how much money someone is spending on a project as well. There's quite a few different places you can do that, but you can also filter down by phase, person, and fee type if you would like to take a look on this particular project. And then once we get down here, we can see our cumulative amounts. So this is just showing for the phase. We have planned, staffed, logged, and invoiced. So of course, this will start to populate once you start to log time within the platform. So next we have profit. And I do not have a connection with QBO right now on my demo account, but this does give you kind of a precursor of what you can take a look at here. So you can see how much time and billable, how much time and money has been spent on a project per phase. And then you can see how much money was brought in per phase after you start invoicing as well. So very important on a project to take a look at. And then you also have the financials tab. I just want to preview this. I'm not actually going to go into it because we'll talk about it during our invoicing session together. But just as a preview, this is kind of the financial hub for everything that's going on with the project. So I'm going to head back to the overview page. And now we can see our fully built out project with all of the widgets that come along with it and everything that populates based on the data that we just put in. So we have pre-design, SD, and CA. We have the date range that was chosen. We have how many people are working on that project or staffed. And then we also have a little money Gantt chart here. So with this $sign, and this is permission-based, just so everyone knows, you can turn this off for specific employees if you would like. So you can see the fee planned, excuse me. You can see the fee planned, the time logged, you can see what's been invoiced and what's been paid per phase. Of course, you can see that in many different ways on that financials tab as well, but this is just kind of a quick way to view that. And then if I scroll over, well, you can see on the left-hand side this hatch mark, that just means it's in the past and everything clear is into the future. So if you start to scroll right, you can start to see every one of those phases that we included. So next up on our list, we have project staffing. So this is going to be a preview of what is happening within the staffing module as well. So this is log time through last week and staff time from the current week onward. So this is kind of holistically your plan of what is going on, what has been logged, what you have into the future, and kind of where those budgets are sitting. So right now, this shows our total project budget at 91%. I understaffed by about $888. So that could be some extra wiggle room for a margin if you would like, or if you want to build this out to build this out to 100%, you can do so like we see in schematic design. So this is just showing the planned, logged, and staffed amounts in dollar amounts, but again, it's not breaking it down by individual necessarily. So that's just the difference between each of these percentages here. This shows you planned, logged, and staffed. And something to note, we will talk about this in another webinar as well. We'll really get into detail with this, but just because something has been staffed doesn't mean that time or that dollar amount has actually been used within the project. It's just kind of projecting and planning that that will be used. So next up is project progress. And as a note, this does include billable and non-billable work. So if you have logged time to an activity that's non-billable, that is still going to show in here as budget consumed because you did technically work on that project. But once you actually get into invoicing, that non-billable work won't show up. So there's a good differentiation there. But just because it's non-billable doesn't mean you didn't spend time on the project. So as you start logging time, these will start to fill in with this chosen color. This one happens to be green, but it will start to fill in with the chosen color, just giving you a visual view of exactly where you're at from start to finish with your budget. So of course, this is all phases. This is showing December 4th through April 30th, but then you can also narrow down into pre-design, schematic, CA, and you can see each of those budget breakdowns, but you can even go a step further. So if I drop down into, let's do SD, I can see principal and project designer. I can see how many hours they were planned for. And then I can see what that looks like in dollar amounts because obviously this project designer has a lower billable rate. So even though they have the same dollar amount budget, they have a higher amount of hours that they can actually complete that time in. So it doesn't name this person necessarily, but it does let you know per role how many hours someone is working or consuming. So next is project details. This one's pretty self-explanatory. We have the duration. If I would have chosen any categories like PM, location, typology, that would show up here. You have total project fees, service fees, consultant fees, and markup, just as kind of a quick snapshot. And then if you would like to collect a retainer, you can start here. We will touch on this in our invoicing session together as well. But if a retainer is something that you work with in your firm, you're welcome to reach out to your launch manager and let them know so they can touch on that too. And then with our team, these are all of the people that we have assigned to the project. So even if they're just on one phase, they'll appear here. And then we can also see a wrap of our consultants. So we're working with ABC and Ruby with Civil and Geotech. And then each of these hyperlinks to that directory profile. So if you came to this project, you need to ask Ruby MEP a question, don't have their email, you can just click here, go to their directory profile, get it, send an email out. And then we have our project shareable link. So this shows that sharing is disabled. That's okay. You're welcome to turn this on if you would like. What this shares to your client is this section here. So it's going to show the Gantt chart, and they are able to see dates and kind of the layout of the green that you're seeing here, but they do not see any financials. So they wouldn't be able to have access to this. They strictly only see this timeline. If you do have milestones, they will appear here with stars. We'll take a look at that on the other overview page here in just a moment. But those are things they're able to view as well. But it's very, very low level. It's just kind of like they can check in to see how far along you are in SD, for example. Okay, so last thing I want to talk about before we move to the larger projects overview is going to be active and more. So I love the active button because if you click on it, you have all of these different options for your entire project. But you can also do this on an individual phase level, which I love and I think is helpful for entering some historical data. So you can see that we have a proposed option here. So if you are in talks or in contract with a client and they're reviewing everything, but you wanted to put the project in Monograph, start logging time to how much it took you to create this proposal, you can do that here and just keep it in propose so that no other team members can log time. They can't even see this project. They don't know it's in the queue. So you can do that. You can have active, there's paused, canceled, and completed as well. And again, you can do all of this on a phase level. So if you're already done with pre-designed schematic all the way through CA, you can complete any individual phase, which disables further time tracking into the future. So just kind of put some parameters on people that may be a little more willy-nilly with their timesheets. So I'll keep this to active here, but you do have those options. And then if you do want to do it on a phase level, you just click into the phase here, and then you have that same option. So I need to go back one page. Okay, and then we have more. So you can, as an admin, you can unfollow this project, very social media, but you can stop receiving notifications for this project if you would like. If you no longer have to worry about this project, you can unfollow it. You can also archive this project once it is maybe complete, or maybe they just stopped work and you don't have to worry about it anymore. It will no longer appear on the main Gantt chart that we'll take a look at here soon, so you can archive there. And then you can also duplicate. So this will copy the project, phases, roles, milestones, and tasks. And this is actually the exact same for saving a template. So if you have very similar contracts, maybe you have a residential, a commercial, a parks, project or template. You can, based on what you created here, you can either duplicate this or you can save it as a template to where you can use it over and over and over, which I think is one of the best ways to start entering projects into Monograph. If you can narrow it down to maybe 2, 3, even 5 templates that kind of reflect the contracts that you have coming in frequently, this will save you a lot of time. So super highlight on templates. And then you can delete if you want, but we're not going to do that. So we'll delete. We're not going to delete. We are going to go back to the actual projects page. So this is everything on the kind of micro project level, but then we also have a view of everything that's going on with our projects page. So this is where we started here. This is the landing page. So this is going to be a list of every single active project that you have. So right now I don't have a super long list, but if you do happen to have quite a few projects in your queue, you can just start to search for things by project code, or you can start to type something in. I think mine was Wednesday test. Yeah, so you can start to type in from there. And then at the top here, you can sort alphabetically, project number, oldest to newest, newest to oldest. Everything in this line here is going to be sticky or remembered. So if you set up your filters exactly how you would like them, that's what it's going to look like every time you come to this page. So by default, active is selected here, but you can also take a look at proposed, paused, completed, and canceled. So you can kind of change the view of what you're looking at if you do need to compare data elsewhere. We have assignments, assigned to me, not assigned, these categories again. So this is where if I was a project manager and I tagged myself to all my projects, yes, I could do assigned to me, but maybe I'm just overseeing a project and I didn't actually include myself for any hours. You can see that here if you were to select PM, or if you just want to see everything in Boulder, for example, you could do that too. You can do clients and active phases as well. So something to take a look at here, we noticed it on the kind of micro project level, but I'm going to take a look at hybrid house down here. Let's start with the 58%. So we can see the planned hours. So these are the total amount of hours that you have scheduled for everyone to work on within the project. This doesn't have to be directly correlated to your budget. Sometimes people have, maybe they just have 90% of their budget built out. And so, built out, but these planned hours may only reflect, 80 of those hours instead of 100% of everything. So then you can see in real time how many hours have been logged against the budget, and then you can see remaining as well. So with this 58%, this is showing that we have logged 58% of our planned budget. And that's great because we're going into CA. This was probably a very profitable project. So then on this Gantt chart, we have our little dollar sign once again. And once you start logging time, you'll notice this moves along the Gantt chart so you can visually see how much of the time has been taken up per phase as well. But this is just showing fee planned, time logged, invoiced, and paid per phase like we saw on the previous screen. And then this star here, this is the milestone I was referring to. So if I hover over this, I can see that 25% CA is due on December 10th. And then this line here, our meridian, I like to call it, very fancy. This is just letting you know that this is the date marker and this is how close you're getting to each of these milestones. So then if you want to scroll over, you can see everything that's going to be in the queue. We are starting the proposal phase on Octavia Street on February 1st. We can take a look at that there. Or if you want to condense things down, you can do days, weeks, months, and quarters. Okay, and then the last couple of things we'll take a look at here are milestones, tasks, templates, and archives. So I've touched on all of these so far, but you can actually see this on a firm level too. So you don't have to view it just by project. You can come to milestones. You can filter by project, phase, and due date. You can also sort by milestone, project, phase, progress, due date. So really what this is showing is the 25% SD on 165 11th Street in SD. And then we have 2 tasks, which this little circle with the check mark means that 2 out of 2 tasks have been completed. So this milestone is technically complete, and we had our due date here. So if I sort by due date, there we go. There's an empty one. So this one is not for quite a while, but this is showing that we have 3 tasks and 75% CA, and none of them have been completed. So you can take a look at milestones there, or you can do a similar thing with tasks. You can filter by project, phase, assignee, status, and due date. And then you can see a very similar version of this information here. This is showing that it was completed, but if I do this, if I sort by a different date, there we go. We can see that that has not been completed yet because it's not due until until October of next year. So anything you want to do in tasks, you can filter out there. And then we come to templates. So this is going to be your template hub. These ones are automatically loaded into your account as well. You can use them as you see fit, or if you don't like them, you can delete them. You can save them as a project and make any edits you need, or you can actually edit the template. So from our project overview page that we were looking at, you can create a template for something that is already existing, or you can come to create a new template. Very similar process to what is showing for the standard project. It's going to be setting up the phases, the milestones, the consultant fees, just as you saw before, but maybe this one is a little bit more generic, so you have more customization down the line. So you can create a new template or you can save it from a previous one, but really what you will want to focus on is saving as a project. So if I have another single family residence contract come in, or I'm just starting to create all of my projects, I can come in, save as a project, and then it will prompt me for this information once again that I can then go into my budget and update anything I need. Okay, and then lastly is archive. This one's pretty self-explanatory. I don't have any archive projects in here, but if you were to go to that more section, archive a project, you'll just have a list of all of your old or archived or non-completed, completed, whatever you want projects in here. So you still have record of everything past, you just don't have to see it on your full projects page. Okay, that is our walkthrough. So let me get back to our slideshow here. Okay. Alrighty, so let's talk about next steps. So homework for you all. Number one, you're wanting to build out your projects with phases, teams, and planned hours. So following those exact steps that I just showed you, building out each of your projects that way. And then number two is what we call passing your knowledge check. And this is really just working side by side with your launch manager to make sure that if you have any questions that we address them before you continue on to all of your projects and maybe have to go back and edit everything. So really what we're looking for with this knowledge check is just one project that has all of your fee allocations, all of the employees, and then all of those, well, they are automatic now, but the allocation percentages or hours, just making sure all of those elements are in the project so you are set up for our future training sessions. And then number three, once you have all of your active projects in or you feel comfortable enough to invite your team, you can register for team orientation and you will start tracking your time. So I'm sure most of your launch managers, if you haven't been able to connect with them just yet, we will talk about go live dates, which is kind of the planned date for when you want to bring your team on when you feel like you have your account in a good spot to bring them on to start logging time. We will talk a little bit more about team orientation once we get through the knowledge check, and each of your launch managers will be checking in on you as well. So that's all of the things that you can look forward to. Okay, Q&A. I actually did not see anything in here while I was presenting, but if you do have a question, feel free to put it in there. We do have about 15 more minutes left. I'm actually going to take a drink of water, so if anyone wants to put a question in there, feel free. Okay, I may not have given enough time to type, but feel free to drop anything in there if you do have questions. Okay, and last but not least, we do have our support resources. Okay, so this is one of the things that is not in a demo account that I kind of mentioned earlier. In your actual organization, you will see a purple chat icon that's at the bottom right-hand screen, just like in your Monograph account when you log in. It doesn't matter what page you're on, this will always pop up. And this is a direct connection to our support team. So whether it's troubleshooting or general questions, you are welcome to reach out to them or your launch manager as well while you are in onboarding. So support is going to be there through your entire duration of Monograph, which is hopefully forever. Don't we all want to be here forever? So that's something that you can look forward to. They are unbiasedly and probably biasedly the most fantastic support team I have ever personally worked with, but also how they help all of you is top notch. So big shout out to them because they also do our learning resource center here. So this is support.monograph.com. They have been working so hard behind the scenes with this learning center to get everything updated for the new navigation. So they've done a killer job doing that. But what you will want to do in here is you can search for articles just by keywords. So if you are looking to get more information about consultant fees or those phase and project fees that we were discussing during the budget portion of our project, you can just type in consultant fee or Stripe integration or project. Any keyword that you want to put in there, it will start to bring up all of the relevant articles, which have been, of course, redone for our new navigation. But huge shout out to our support team for that. They have made a fantastic learning center that is very easy to follow with great step-by-step directions. But I digress. Last but not least, we do have YouTube. So one of the most important things on our YouTube channel is all of our, I wouldn't call them recurring webinars, but our leadership does a webinar every quarter of the year with different themes. So if you would like to check anything out from this year or years past, you're welcome to do so. We had a really great one. Was it 2 weeks ago? Maybe 3 at this point. That was 2025 planning, just things to consider within your Monograph account or, just best practices for architecture firms. That one is up and running on our YouTube page. There's also different information on, time off and staffing. I just said time off policies, but there's a really good one on time off policies as well. And then, of course, there's use cases and those kinds of things. But the webinar series has been fabulous and it's been really helpful to a lot of people. So would recommend any of these resources, but of course you have us as well. And one question did come in. Okay. What is the protocol for entering past information for projects already in progress? How detailed do we go? That's a great question. So I typically get this exact question during these webinars, and there is a few different elements that you will want to consider. It is very firm specific on how much information you want to bring in. I have seen an incredibly wide range of people doing very, very detailed timesheets, invoices, and project details, and some people only bring in active phases. So Tessa, I am not sure who your launch manager is. I need to look at this list that I have behind me here. Basis. Okay, you are with AJ. Fabulous. So I will talk with AJ and have him send you some more information on entering that past information data. But just as a starting point with the project section that we were talking today, if you do want to bring in past phases, it's the same process, you just retroactively put that date in. So you won't see it necessarily on your Gantt chart unless you're scrolling backwards, but you can just backdate it so you have that full contract entered in there. So I'll make sure that AJ gets some additional details there. And then anyone else here, if you are planning to bring in past data, if you want to just drop your name in here or drop a question mark, feels the same. I can just make sure that your launch manager has that information so we can provide more detail for you. Oh, okay. That is the end of our road here. Okay, I will give another minute just to see if anyone else needs